Welcome back everybody to part 2 of our Unity maze tilting game tutorial. In the last video we created our maze, set up the movement. Now let's create a game manager to control a timer, and let's create a goal for the win condition. When you're ready, grab your maze exploring kit, let's crack on. Okay, so let's make our game manager by simply right clicking, creating an empty game object, rename it to Game Manager, reset its position, and I like to position the Game Manager at the top there, just below the camera. Then go to the Scripts folder, create a Game Manager script, drag it onto the Game Manager, and open it up. Okay, so first things first, we want the Game Manager to be able to access UI elements and reload the scene. For that, at the very top, we need to add using UnityEngine.ui and using UnityEngine.SceneManagement. Once you've gone ahead and added those, let's head back and punch in our variables. Alright, so our variables, we want a public float timer and a serialized bool so we can view it in the inspector called isRunning, and we want that to be true upon level start, so the timer ticks down. If it's false, the timer will stop. We also want a public text time text to display the time and a public game object menu to pop up upon level completion so we can select replay. Alright, let's now head into void update and get our timer working. We'll start with an if statement, so if isRunning is true. Then we want the timer to plus equal time.delta time, so it increments upwards. Then we want to display that time via the time text.text, and it'll equal a string between these two quotations, and that string will be plus timer.toString. Then inside the brackets here, I've added f2 in quotations, plus, and then another string, s for seconds. What this does, the f2, is it allows us to display the timer with 2 decimal places. So we'll have the seconds and the split seconds in our time string. Next, we also want to have the ability to stop the clock. So we'll create a public void stop timer. And when this is called, isRunning will equal false. And we want to display the completion time. And similar to what we did here, we'll punch in timetext.text equals, and then our string will be goal, semicolon, followed by our final time. And that'll be the same again, plus timer.toString to 2 decimal places, and we want to display it as seconds. We also want the main menu, that menu game object, to be active, so menu.setActive equals true. That will allow us to replay the game, and we don't want to have control over the maze anymore, so we're going to essentially pause the game by creating time.timescale equals 0. When we reload the scene, we want timescale to be resuming as normal, so I'd like you to quickly go ahead, copy and paste the time.timescale into the start there, and we want that to be 1, so time is ticking as usual. Then, finally, when we complete the maze, we want to have the option to reload, so let's create a public void called replay, and we just need one line of code in here. That'll be the scene manager.loadScene, in the brackets, the scene we want to load, which will be this, the active scene, so scene manager.getActiveScene, open close brackets, .name. So that will just reload this very same scene. There we are. Hit save. Let's head back into Unity. Once the code has compiled, let's go ahead and create the objects that the game manager is looking for, such as the time text and the menu. Let's go ahead and right click, create a UI canvas. We can leave it as it is as screen space overlay. Then inside we'll create an empty game object, and this will be our menu. Inside the menu, we simply just want a button. There we go. And this button we will rename as our replay. There we go. Then, if you want to see this in the inspector, double click the canvas and just rotate the camera so you can see it just like so. Now, let's apply the game manager script so that the button can function. If we select the button there and go to the bottom, you'll see this on-click function here. Click the plus, and then we'll drag and drop the game manager object in there because it has the game manager script, and select the function we want. So we want the game manager replay, and our button is set up and ready. Next, let's create the text for the timer. Let's minimize the menu, go to Canvas, right click, hit UI, and then text. Let's rename the text to timer. And in the text script, let's just punch in timer again. And let's align this in the top right corner by selecting the transform, holding down Alt and clicking the top right corner. Then let's go back to the text script and let's just change a few things. For the alignment, let's set it to right aligned and center. If we have it left aligned, as the timer increases, it's going to increase to the right. We want it to increase to the left, otherwise it would appear off screen, and we don't want that. We also want to change the horizontal and vertical overflow to overflow, so go ahead and adjust those. And because I have a dark background, I'm going to change the color of my text to white, and then finally scale it up a little bit just so it's clear. And then feel free to adjust it to your liking. I'm just going to drop it down and move it a little bit more to the right, maybe up a little bit more. And there we go. So that is all we need for the UI elements. Let's go ahead and punch these into the game manager. But first, because we don't want the menu active, let's go ahead and set that as inactive. Go to the game manager. Let's drag our menu object in there and our timer text in there. Let's just have a look to see how our timer is working. Go ahead and hit play. And there you can see the timer is incrementing to 2 decimal places. That's pretty good. Okay, now let's go and create the goal object to stop the timer upon level completion. Let's head back to the maze and let's create the goal by right clicking and creating an empty game object that we will call the goal. We want to reset its position just like so. And then inside, let's create a cube. And what we're going to do is simply position the goal to the far right corner of the maze, just like so. I'm going to zoom in to take a closer look, and I'm going to raise it a little bit so it sits nice and neatly in that corner. We want to make sure that the walls of this cube are not crossing over into any of the paths, otherwise we may accidentally trigger the goal when we're not actually at the goal area. Then what we're going to do, we're going to select the cube. Let's call it trigger because we're going to have other objects in this goal game object. And let's remove, by clicking the cog icon, the mesh render component and the mesh filter, and we're left with just the box collider. We want this box collider to be a trigger, so let's go ahead and click X trigger, true. And now we have our trigger all set up, but we currently have no indication that that area is the goal. So let's create a flag to indicate our target. To create the pole, let's go back to the goal parent, right click, and let's create a cylinder this time. And we need to change the scale so it's thin. So let's go with 0.1 on the X and the Z axis, and we'll leave the height on the Y as 1. Let's rename this object to goal pole. Then inside, let's create a few child game objects. Right click again, and let's create a cube. This is actually going to be the cloth for our flag. And as you can see, it's currently not looking anything like a flag, so let's change the size in the inspector. For the scale on the X and the Y, let's go with 0.25 and 0.25. And for the Z, let's go with 3, so we get a nice rectangle. Zoom in, and let's take a look at raising it up, just so it sits underneath the top there, move it out a little bit more, and there you go, you have a really basic goal pole. Let's add some colour to it. So for the actual flag, let's go to materials and let's drag a nice red colour onto the flag like so. And we'll leave the goal as the current plain white colour it is. That stands out quite nice. Now we don't want our pole in the centre of our goal area, so let's reposition it into the corner of the wall over there. So grab the flagpole parent, let's adjust the camera so we have a good bird's eye view. And simply by clicking that center square, we can reposition it freely. I'm going to place it there. Then we want to raise the height. So let's just increase its height a little bit. That looks fine to me. The goal trigger is still there. That looks great. Now we have to make this goal a child of the maze parent. So go ahead and drag that into there like so. So it moves with maze. Now we've created the goal. Let's go ahead and create a goal trigger script. Go to the scripts folder, create your goal trigger, attach it to the trigger object in the parent goal object, and go ahead and open it up. For the goal trigger script, we don't need anything complicated. We just need a public game manager, the GM, in order to access the replay function. Then we want to create a void on trigger enter collider other, which of course will be the ball. And inside, we're going to create an if statement that says if the other collider.compare tag is equal to the string player, then the gm.stopTimer is called. And that should bring up the main menu, stop the clock, we can view our time and reset the game. So let's hit save, let's head back into Unity. Now all we have to do is drag the game manager into there on the goal trigger script. And because it's looking to compare tag of player, let's go to the ball, go to the tag drop down, select player. And just to demonstrate, I'm going to move my ball a little bit closer. I'm going to place it in there. And now if you go ahead and play test, once we get to the goal, the timer is stopped. There's our goal, 2.77 seconds. And our button, I've left the name as button here. Please feel free to rename it what you like. And when we select the button, it should reload the scene where the ball was in its starting position. And we can go again. Happy days. And there we go. We've created a simple maze tilting game where we can control the maze in order to get the ball rolling towards a goal, which will record our fastest time, ready for us to go again. I hope you enjoyed this little project. If you'd like to see more projects like this, please feel free to leave your recommendations in the comments or reach out to us on any of our socials. You're more than welcome. And thank you all very much for watching, guys. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you all soon. Maybe you could beat my time of 33.76 seconds. Let me know if you do, and take care.